If you're like me, you like to do your research, and if you're considering a move to Fulshear, Texas, chances are you might have dug around on Reddit to see what the locals actually say. So here are 7 questions that Redditors wanted answers to before they moved to Fulshear, Texas. Hi, I'm Carolyn Bauerschlag, a local real estate agent serving Fulshear, Texas, helping people just like you relocate from all over the country right to our backyard. The first major question that I saw on Reddit was, how hard is it to find childcare? And I would say the Redditors had some pretty varied answers, but I would call them reliable. Basically, Fulshear is experiencing explosive population growth. Within the last 3 or 4 years, the population has almost tripled from 20,000 to nearly 60,000. And what that means is that businesses aren't really keeping up with the demand because they just kind of can't, right? It's whiplash. So what Redditors said is that if you are moving to the area, you need to get on a wait list with any one of these childcare centers almost immediately. So if you are expecting, it's good practice to go and interview those daycares pretty early on so that when you have a baby, you have your opportunity to get your child into that child care. If your child is a little bit more preschool age, it's a little less competitive to get into a classroom, and that's because the student-to-teacher ratios are allowed to be a little bit larger. But I would say as the population continues to grow, it probably will still be competitive. The other thing people wanted to know is how much does it cost? And I would say roughly $1,250 to $1,350 a month. For full-time childcare is pretty normal. If you're looking for a Mother's Day Out program, those are typically through churches. Those are going to be maybe like 5 hours a day for maybe 2 days a week of time to yourself. And in a month, those 10 hours a week might cost you somewhere around $300. If you're looking for something like after-school care, those programs, again, are a lot less competitive or less difficult to get into. And after-school childcare, you can reliably depend upon $300 a month as well. Another big question that Redditors had is the traffic really that bad? And the answer was a resounding yes. Again, when you grow from 20,000 to 60,000 in just about a 4 or 5 year period, you're going to experience bottlenecks. Now, the good news is that the Fort Bend County Toll Authority has decided that there are bottlenecks that need to be addressed. And so West Park Toll Road has been extended from the Grand Parkway, and it's moving out west towards 359. Now, that project's been in process for the last couple of years, and it is expected to roll through 2026. I drive this corridor a couple times a week, and I can tell you with confidence that based on what I've seen, that 2026 deadline is feasible. Now, on the flip side, unfortunately, 1463, which is a major artery that runs from 1093, the West Park Toll, all the way up to I-10, is a horrible bottleneck. This has been under construction for several years, and based on what I've seen there, it will probably be 2027 or later before this project actually completes. Unfortunately, the construction folks that bid on the project did not properly account for things like switch lanes, which is crazy to think about. And so when they shut down one side, you're really kind of driving through shoulders, and it's a major bottleneck everywhere you need to go. This 1463 is also heavily populated with businesses, and so it's difficult to get where you're needing to go. Everyone's moving kind of at a snail's pace. Now, one major blessing is that within the last couple of years, we received kind of a wormhole that opens between 1093 and I-10 that's a little bit west of 1463. So it sits in between 359 and 1463, and it's called the Texas Heritage Parkway. What this is an unobstructed freeway, really, that has roundabouts. There's no stop signs, there's no traffic lights, and it's just a straight shot to I-10 from 1093. Now, it will probably take you 12, 13 minutes to do it, but that's a lot better than trying to traverse the Grand Parkway or 1463. Now, most people that are considering living in Fulshear are not trying to get to work somewhere on I-10. So if, for instance, you needed to get to the energy corridor along I-10, I would say living in Fulshear would be a tough way to go. Most people that are living in Fulshear are commuting on the West Park Toll. They're going to the Beltway area or to 610. And so what that kind of gets you, if you want to put names to it, is the West Chase area, the southern part of the energy corridor, the Galleria area, or downtown. Another great question that I saw on Reddit is, what's it like to actually live in Fulshear? And residents did a great job of answering this question. So from Redditors, I saw very frequent comments like, you really actually get that small town feel. People said that you really do get Southern hospitality. You're going to get to know your neighbors, lots and lots of local businesses. So if you're moving from a more heavily, densely populated area and you're looking for a little smaller town feel, I think you will actually get that out there. Now, when we talk about population density, I would say that 1463, kind of the east side of Fulshear, is heavily, heavily populated, very, very dense. And as you move along the West Park Toll out towards 359 and further west of 359, that's where you're going to see more of the cow pastures, more rural farmland, people's private estates. And back behind those roads, you start to see kind of master plan communities, but it's much more green as you go further west. Another major recurring question on Reddit was, is Fulshear actually an affordable place to live? And this is a great question, right? Because Fulshear has hit the news many times for being one of the wealthiest zip codes in the entire greater Houston area. And that's kind of wild when you think about it because of the immense wealth that really does exist in Houston. So 77441, if you Google that, you're going to see that it's a very affluent area, which begs the question, can you actually afford a home? Now, Fulshear does have a huge swing in homes that are available. I would say we see homes that are priced at $300,000 all the way up to $3 million. Median price point, though, racks in right around $475,000. That is not inexpensive in my view. But the good news is that if you are looking at more of an entry-level price point, I would say entry-level does start right at the low 300s. You would have at that price point, like in a neighborhood of like Polo Ranch, a 3-bed, 2-bath option on a nice size, like 6,000, 7,200 square foot lot. And there's also townhomes. There's 2 townhome sections in Cross Creek Ranch that offer homes that start in the 300,000s as well. The 5th question that I saw on Reddit that came up a couple of different ways was, does it actually feel like the country in Fulshear? And I thought this was a great question, right? Because we know that Fulshear is getting more and more developed. So obviously people want to know, if I move there, will it feel like the country or not? And I would say it heavily depends. Now, again, anything west of 359, this is going to be kind of your wider, greener spaces. Fewer and fewer people are out this way. So think of neighborhoods like Fullbrook on Fulshear Creek, Weston Lakes, or actual Fullbrook. Those 3 neighborhoods, I would say, give you the elbow room that you're probably really looking for. When I think of people saying, does it feel like the country? What I think of is it on a well and septic, right? Do I have plumbing? Do I have access to traditional utilities? And the answer is, again, it depends. So in Weston Lakes or in Fullbrook, where these properties are on an acre or larger, it is very common for people to have their own well and septic system. If that's not something you've cared for before, don't worry. There are plenty of companies that will help you figure out your well and septic system, but it certainly is a learning curve. Now, if you wanted something that you're used to that's not country at all, you would just go to the east side of Fulshear, and that's going to be more along the lines of like Cross Creek Ranch. Another theme that I saw asked a bunch of different ways was, how are the schools? And this came up in a couple of different varieties, right? So Lamar Consolidated ISD is a wonderful school district. And I think the question was coming up because it was debated against Katy ISD. Fulshear as a community abuts Katy ISD, and a lot of people move out to the west side because they know Katy is a known quantity. So it was a natural question to say, if I choose not to live in Katy, will my child get a good education in Fulshear? And the answer is a resounding yes. If you go to the Texas Education Agency's website, you can actually pull the state's view of how that school performed in a given calendar year. So Fulshear High School and Huggins Elementary, those are right in the heart of Fulshear. Those are A-rated schools, as are the junior highs. What you probably don't know and won't see through the TEA, but you will find through answers on Reddit and locals, is that that population growth within Fulshear has really put a strain on services attached to the school. So things like bus service is going to be a challenge. If your child is getting out of school and onto a bus, it might be an hour before your child makes it home. And that's just a function of us being in a high growth area. What would make that better is if residents approved the bond elections that Lamar Consolidated ISD puts forward. Now, bond elections are their own ball of wax. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that, but essentially school districts, when they ask for help, what they're asking for is essentially a mortgage. They go to the taxpayers and they say, hey, we're growing so fast. We need services, we need schools, we need people, right? And they'll ask for a mortgage from the taxpayers so that they can use the tax revenue to pay off the mortgage. So it's not that they're abusing funds and they didn't save properly. It's just that they need to keep up with the growth that is happening faster than they can save for the total cost of those facilities and services. The last question I saw on Reddit, and I thought this was really a great one, was what should I know that I haven't asked? And this is kind of where people spilled the tea, right? So the commenters, the Redditors had a lot of varied responses, but a couple of them stuck out to me. So one of them was that, yes, it is a small town and yes, it is close knit, but what can kind of come out of that is essentially that people chat, maybe gossip in a different word. You might get a cliquish feel in certain pockets. So that was kind of an interesting response that I didn't really anticipate. But I guess if you have fewer people in an area, more people are going to know each other, right? Another one is that cell service was a challenge. And we know this to be true. The further you go west, of course, this was not a populated area, and now it is. Fortunately, Fulshear did vote in that a couple of cell towers could be installed. That just happened in 2025. So hopefully that does alleviate some of the communication issues that you have whenever you're driving out west. Another big thing that we saw people talk about was that the water is hard. So if you are going to move out to Fulshear and you're not used to this, you might want to get a water softener installed. And what that means is that basically just a lot of sediment is going to naturally build up kind of on the insides of your pipes. It might show up in your faucets, and it might just make plumbing a little bit more difficult. Water softeners can be about $2,500 to install, maybe a little bit of a pain, but something worth doing. The last thing that I saw is that service providers in Fulshear, Redditors said it's maybe not the variety that you're looking for, right? So like you're going to have maybe one internet service provider that you can choose from. We're not quite up on like fiber optic cable out in the country yet. You've got one gas provider. That's fairly typical. But perhaps like the number of services that you'd like to choose from aren't fully available out west yet. All that to say, Fulshear is a fabulous place to live. There's a joke that is in our industry that's called "Go where the realtors go," and I can tell you a ton of realtors actually move out into the Fulshear area. It's a popular choice for the ease of living, the green spaces, and the relatively easy access to the major amenities of a giant city, right? So you can get in your car and you can drive to all the amenities of Houston, Texas, and get in your car and enjoy kind of the greener spaces of the country. If you're looking to move to Fulshear, I would love to be your realtor. I'm a native of this area and I've been serving Fulshear for nearly 11 years. If there is a question that you have that I didn't answer today, make sure to drop it in the comments, and I take the time to go through each one of those comments and I will get your questions answered. And if you found value in what you saw today, make sure to click the link below and subscribe. We put content like this out every single week. See you soon.